No cowboy hat. I feel like being Rojo, not the Kodiak today. So yeah, we're going to be talking about this Patrick Surtain pick, as you can see by the title. So as far as the pick itself, or actually let's go back to draft day. Draft day a direct week ago. Why is this coming out a week later? I don't know. I just am undisciplined when it comes to YouTube. It has have no work ethic compared to my restaurant job in real life, where I just go hard for 90 hours a week, and I'm just like, oh, I'm too lazy to make a YouTube video or whatever. So we're going to be talking about the Broncos pick of Patrick Surtain, but before we talk about that, I want to be talking about what happened that day, draft day. So I remember being at the gym at around 2 Mountain Time, and all I keep hearing that day, I see on the TV up above, is that Aaron Rodgers wants to get out of Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers is very unhappy with where he's at. So the Packers are flying out to California to meet with him, and he hit them on draft day like they hit him last year with the Jordan Love selection. Literally, all the talk leading up to the draft is that the top 3 spots would be the 49ers, the Broncos, and the Raiders. Now, the 49ers apparently offered the number 3 overall pick for Aaron Rodgers, and Green Bay declined, which means they are probably going to be looking at a significant package that will likely lead the Broncos or Raiders to definitely losing the deal, because that is someone who you can definitely lose a deal for, at least value wise. But yeah, so all we hear is that he wants to go to, it's either Green Bay, Vegas, or San Francisco. Now, like an hour before the draft, all I hear is that Aaron Rodgers is coming to Denver, and that they weren't going to go quarterback at 9 because they already had like a deal almost done. And I heard that from Mark Schlereth, who does the radio in Denver. So I'm going to be talking about the pick itself and why we drafted Patrick Surtain and how he fits into Fangio's defense. So Patrick Surtain is a very, very, very good corner prospect. As far as the business side of why, actually he was the second corner off the board, which shows NFL teams viewed, or actually I don't know how NFL teams viewed the cornerbacks, but Horn and Surtain went relatively early. In the beginning of the draft, there was a lot of talk about, Caleb Barley and his situation. A lot of the mocks before we solved our corner situation in Denver, we usually took Farley or Surtain at number 9, but as, days were ramping up to the draft, we learned more and more and more that Justin Fields was probably going to drop a little, because number 3 we knew was either between Trey Lance or Mac Jones. So about Surtain himself, great corner prospect, but as far as Carolina took Horn above him, which means he got the necessary capital to be the CB1 off the board. And then the next pick was Denver, then the next pick was Dallas. And I saw a lot of Cowboys fans being really unhappy with the Broncos selecting Surtain after this pick was made, because they thought they were going to get him. But they ended up trading down for a good package and got Mike Parsons, who many believe to be the best defense player in the draft. So as to why we drafted Surtain, well, first of all, George Paton comes from the Vikings, where the philosophy over there has been, okay, we don't care how good or how bad we are. Cornerback round 1, like literally every single year. Another portion of the Vikings philosophy that George Paton brought over is being fine with being second fiddle to the division leading Packers, or in this case, it'll probably be the Chiefs for a long time. So yeah, in the Broncos cornerback room last year, they were down to like their CB5 or CB6. We just knew AJ Boye ended up getting like $10 million from them. He just wasn't worth the investment. They traded a 4th round pick for him, so it wasn't the end of the world. But either way, they really did not have a lot of stability or standout play at the CB position last year. The only one who made a few good plays every once in a while was Michael Ojemudia. And then suddenly against the Bills, we were down to like our CB5 or CB6. And your CB5 or CB6 trying to cover Stephon Diggs just usually is not going to go very well. So the Broncos, I guess they decided that they were going to need to bolster their secondary. So they signed Justin Simmons to an extension early March, I believe. No surprise there. We all knew that, he was going to get extended. He's probably been our best player on defense since the beginning of last year, because Miller, Miller tore his ACL last year, and Chubb has also been hurt too. So we knew Simmons was going to get extended. but the Bears cut Kyle Fuller. And this was very interesting. And the Broncos immediately were calling Kyle Fuller, like, hey, come on over here, because Fangio's familiar with him. And Fangio was the one who built that nasty 2018 Bears defense. And then right after we signed Kyle Fuller, we signed Ronald Darby to a 3-year, $30 million contract. And whether or not that's a good decision, I don't know. A lot of Eagles fans are unhappy with this play, but they say he stands out in like short to mid man zone coverage. So, yeah, I mean, if you consider Darby a significant piece of their secondary, which they have the most investment right now in, besides Simmons, uh, yeah, I guess it might make sense to draft Surtain, who's the corner of the future. Now, he's the corner of the future. I don't know if he's going to start for us this year. It could be really, really, really nasty if they decide to use him in some nickel dime packages and let the other corners just wreak havoc all over the field. And yeah, we don't have our linebacker position really solved, but I guess an elite secondary can help cover for a defensive line that isn't strong. And the Broncos' edge rush is strong. Their interior might be able to use a little bit of help. And the Broncos' linebackers, I mean, Fangio can get literally anything out of anyone. So yeah, our linebacking position needs help, but I guess, we're going with the Patriots philosophy, the Vikings philosophy, which is just invest heavily in the secondary, and yeah, I guess good things will happen. We're probably not going to be able to keep all of Fuller, Darby, and Callahan next year because, yeah, I just don't see it being able to happen. And Surtain was probably viewed as the replacement for at least one of those guys. And it's so interesting because the Broncos actually said they had him ranked as their number one defensive player on the board. So if you're going to pass on Justin Fields, which that's the main criticism of this pick is that they passed on Justin Fields. You may as well do it for the guy you had number one overall, or not number one overall, but the defensive player you have highest on your board. I don't know, that just makes a bit of sense to me. I'm not a GM, but hopefully one day I get the chance to run the team. As far as why a lot of Broncos fans are mad about this pick, one reason only, because Patrick Surtain is not Justin Fields. And I completely understand being mad because on the day before the draft, they traded for Teddy Bridgewater. So it was reported that George Paton reportedly had cooled on a first round quarterback, not because of Drew Lock, because, Lock is still the incumbent starter, and I believe he has more potential than Teddy Bridgewater. But he said that they were fine rolling out with Lock and Bridgewater next year. So, I mean, I guess they just value Theodore Roosevelt that highly to the point where they completely felt the need to disregard the position. Since the end of 2016, the Broncos have not been a good team, and I'd argue it's mainly because of QB turnover and the fact that they can't get QBs to stay, they can't keep them upright, or they just can't do anything with the weapons they're surrounded with. Now, the Broncos have built a very, very good supporting cast around Drew Lock, but literally everyone was hurt last year. So, Handler got hurt. Sutton missed the whole season with an ACL tear. Fant had a nagging injury on and off. And Tim Patrick was really good, but he was basically the only one out of the Broncos stack group of weapons. Judy too, but he was still, getting adapted to the NFL, which is understandable from a rookie standpoint. So they've just done a phenomenal job of surrounding Drew Lock. So I guess they said, okay, he's not our guy going forward, but Teddy Bridgewater, we might have something in him. I don't know. I think the Surtain pick. I would think it Fields, but I completely understand why they decided to draft Surtain. Like I said, number one defense player on the board. Go out and get him. Whether that's fair or not to say, I don't know because I'm not a scout, and I likely will never be as good as scouting defensive backs as guys who were actually in the Broncos war room that night. Everything that's been said about Surtain makes me think that he's going to be a great, great Bronco for years to come. And I was sitting right here in my room with my boy Andrew on draft night, and we were listening to Surtain's press conference, and he just seemed so grateful to, be given the opportunity he was. And yeah. One last thing. This is our reaction to the pick itself when I was having a draft party at my house. And one last thing, the Broncos social media screwed up big time. I was sitting here with about 5 of my buddies watching the draft at my house, and so the Broncos ended up posting about Patrick Surtain to their Instagram, but they ended up tagging the wrong account. Patrick Surtain's real handle on Instagram is Patrick Surtain LL. So when I clicked on it to follow him, because I follow at least 90% of the Broncos, I noticed that the user was not found. I literally got a message saying user was not found, which tells me that there was no handle. Because if there was a handle of someone, they would have been able to pick it up immediately, or no, you would have clicked on the profile and you would have been able to see that they had a legitimate account. So I guess not too many guys are named Patrick Surtain II throughout the world. And I clicked on the handle, there was literally nothing there. So the Broncos ended up tagging an account, a burner account I had, because I switched my on that to Patrick Surtain II, which is what they meant to tag. So that was pretty funny, and we ended up posting some pretty funny stuff. And a lot of people ended up seeing the Broncos screw up, and I was the face of that page, and it was funny. Alright guys, that's going to do it for the video. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're not already. Follow me on Twitter, link is in the description down below. Anyways guys, have a good day, and peace out.